Welcome to episode 28 of the Family Geekery Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Danny.
And today we're going to talk about the cartoons we grew up with. Does that sound like a fun subject?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Too many to list, but we've got a list each of us. But before that, let's talk about any news or activities this week. Anything going on, girls?
Well, I guess I'll give the magic news, as I always do. But Hasbro right now is having PulseCon, which I guess is just another one of those conventions. And they're doing a team up with Wizards of the Coast and making magic cards. And I thought this was pretty relevant, especially since we're talking about cartoons today. But so far, they just announced that they're going to have some Transformers cards. And they've had some Transformers cards before, like just Optimus Prime, I think. But now they're putting some other ones out there, with my personal favorite Soundwave in addition to the others. And it looks pretty cool. And they're going to be available sprinkled in to the next set, which will be Brothers War.
Do the cards like transform? Like, do their abilities change as the game goes on or something?
Yeah, they like flip. So on one side you have like them in robot form, and then the other side you have them in like transformed form. So like car or truck or whatever. And they have different ways to flip them and different abilities when they're flipped on each side.
When you flip, do you have to go? Because if you don't, it doesn't count. You like lose mana or something.
No, but that should be an added rule.
Maybe I can get bonus mana for my. I practice that daily. What about you, Danny? Anything going on?
Not really. Nothing
We gotta
new.
get you some new games.
Yeah.
You been playing the Switch at all?
No.
No. We gotta get you some games.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get you a life. All your social events got no time for games. Well, that's cool. I don't have much going on this week myself either. I think I played a little bit of games, but nothing much to report on. So let's get right into the episode. The cartoons we grew up with, and who come up with this idea? Which one of you?
I did.
And why'd you come up with this idea?
I don't know. It just randomly popped in my head. I thought it would be fun.
Sense. We talked about the games back in episode 25, the games and toys and stuff, the geeky gadgets. And this kind of ties in with that because all the shows we're going to talk about had commercials. Or they were themselves commercials for toys. And that's going to drive your interests one way or the other. So who wants to start off? We're going to do this round robin, or are we just going to roll through three people individually? Should probably just roll through.
Sure, yeah.
Who's going to start first? We're going to go age again.
Sure.
Danny first.
Okay. I guess I'll start off with one of my favorites. It was popular. It was Backyardigans.
Oh, yeah. Good show.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's one of the ones I have the most memory of, because some of these on my list I was like really young. This one I remember a bit more. We had a Backyardigans CD that we would listen to as we went to sleep when we were little, and I still can know some of the songs. I like this show so much that I was actually Pablo for Halloween one year.
That's right. Cutest little Pablo in the whole neighborhood.
It was like a little onesie. It was so cute.
I was, but all I can remember was it was really itchy.
No Halloween costumes are supposed to be comfortable.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun for me because up to a certain age, you watch shows based on what your parents put on the TV for you. And then after that, you start watching shows of your own volition. So it'll be kind of neat to see the transitions between like the shows that you didn't watch because your parents thought they were too annoying versus the shows that we wanted to watch, that we could tolerate. And Backyardigans was definitely a decent show that I could tolerate. It was funny and it was cute.
Mm-hmm.
So what else you got?
I got Word World.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this one, I don't know if it was that much talked about, like remembered nowadays, but it was like a bunch of animals, and whatever animal it was, like pig, the actual word pig would make the animal, and that's what they would look like. And I guess it was more of like a learning show, help kids like spell and like see like letters and stuff. So I thought that was cool. It was cute.
Yeah, when I was young, there was the Letter People. You ever seen the Letter People?
No.
No.
It wasn't a cartoon, but it was something that they'd play in school, and it was like almost like Muppets, but they were just single letters, and you're supposed to learn about things by these letter people. And then if you're real lucky, your teacher would actually bring in one. I don't know if it was like a school sponsored like program that, like Scholastic or something, that each school would get several of these letters, and the teachers could bring them in and make them, puppet them around a little bit. But nothing as cool as seeing a pig named Pig that looks like a pig.
Yeah. Another show I watched, I don't know when this came out. I think it came out before like my time, but I remember watching it. Rugrats.
We watched a lot of Rugrats.
Yeah, that was before your time, Danny.
Was
I
it?
mean, Rugrats goes all the way back to my time, almost.
Yeah.
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 It's been around a while, yeah.
But they never aged up, did they? Well,
Well,
no, they did.
They did in the
It's a middle school or
Rugrats
whatever.
all grown up.
I remember the movies the most.
Oh yeah.
Like when they went to Japan.
Oh, to film the Reptar movie or something?
Mm-hmm. And Chucky's dad, like, gets married or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wasn't that Paris? Rugrats in Paris?
Oh, maybe. One of those.
They sure did travel a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one. Next I have Amber. I think you remember this one. Back at the Barnyard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
It was a show about barnyard animals, and they're like barn animals, but they were human like. They walked on two legs, they talked and all that kind of stuff. And I don't remember much of the plot.
Well, it was based on the movie. There was the movie first.
Oh.
But it was kind of like, Toy Story and like Madagascar, where like they were trying to escape the farm, but like when a human came around, they would, go back to pretending like animals.
Yeah.
I get all those mixed up, like that one and Home on the Range.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
this
know.
one was DreamWorks.
Yeah.
Was either one of them as good as Shaun the Sheep?
No.
I remember that one. That was a cute one. A more recent show that, or like I watched later, was Total Drama Island.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching that one. That one, it came out with multiple seasons, so we kind of like grew up with it, and it was just funny. It was like unique, and as I got older, I realized it's basically just a funny, kind of messed up version of Survivor.
Yeah, just a parody
Yeah.
of Survivor.
And it was just really funny. I remember watching it before school some mornings, and I remember we would like root for a character.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was good.
And they also spoofed on Amazing Race also.
Yeah. Oh, for the one of the seasons,
Yeah.
the movie one. It was like
No, well they had Total Drama Island, then Total Drama um
action.
Action, and then Total Drama World Tour. That
Mm-hmm.
one was like kind of similar to Amazing Race, but then like after they had a more similar one where like they were actually paired like an
Mm-hmm.
Amazing Race.
I remember that one. And then I guess my last show I'll talk about is also newer, Adventure Time. That one
Oh,
I
I like that
really
one.
liked.
Yeah.
That's the one with Princess Bubblegum and
Yeah.
Finn, Jake the dog,
what's the fat lumpy space
Lumpy Space
Space
Princess.
princess? Yeah,
Princess, Lady
I just remember
Rainicorn.
walking like through the living room and seeing that show on, and I'd just have to stop and be like, "What in the heck is going on?"
It was like each episode would like introduce like new funny characters or like worlds, and
Yeah.
they're just really unique things and plots.
Didn't we meet like one of the artists that did the comic series
Yeah.
for one of the comic book companies?
Uh-huh. He's the
And
guy that makes Catbug, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he was. We got like a signed poster that he did of like Jake and Finn or something for you guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the first Comic Con here. Yep, very cool. So as we go through these lists, of course, go feel free to jump on and speak on someone else's, because I know something that Amber says is going to spark a memory for you, Danny, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. So you done with your list for now? And
Yep.
all right, let's hand it over to Amber.
Okay, well, I've quite a few more listed than Danny came up with. I, in doing my research, I say that lightly, for this episode, I kind of went channel by channel, just remembering ones, going down the Wikipedia page and seeing all the ones that stood out to me that I remember watching. So I'll start off with Disney Channel. Um, and probably my favorite cartoon that I watched was Gravity Falls. Um, and that one was just so cool. I remember, being in late elementary, early middle school, and trying to solve the riddles because they had like little Easter eggs and hints throughout the episodes, and at the end of the episodes, they'd have like a little like string of letters you'd have to decode. And so I remember one of my friends and I we sat and watched the entire first season and tried to decode all the little messages. And that one was really good. I didn't end up finishing it because I just like got older and stopped watching Disney Channel as much. But that is definitely one that I do have to go back and rewatch. But this next one, I vividly remember writing as my favorite TV show in third grade. On the first day of school, everyone has to, oh, who's your favorite singer? What's your favorite food? So Phineas and Ferb was my favorite TV show in third grade. And I don't remember if we talked about this before, but Phineas and Ferb first came out right after, I believe, the High School Musical 2 movie. Right after High School Musical 2, they had like 15 minutes to fill in the time slot or whatever. So they did the first half of the first episode of Phineas and Ferb, because it was like one of those shows where you get two stories in one 30-minute episode. And so when we saw that, and we kind of like didn't watch it much after that, but then we found Phineas and Ferb again, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved everything about it. Good songs, good episodes.
Squirrels in my pants.
Yeah, yeah.
I like how it was all every episode was always two different stories going on.
Yeah,
that would converge several times throughout the episode. I thought that was so well done.
it was really cool, and all the characters were so well written.
I always remember by the theme song saying there's 101 days in summer vacation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was thinking, man, that's horrible, because they're going to get to 101 episodes and then it's going to be over. They
Nope.
can't continue. I guess they found a way.
Yeah.
I actually had a strong opinion about Phineas and Ferb. I wasn't that into it. I wasn't into like the type of shows that kind of had the same plot every episode, which it was like kind of the thing because Candace was like, "Oh, Phineas and Ferb are doing crazy stuff. Look, Mom. Nope, it's gone." And so I didn't really like how it was kind of repetitive, but it definitely had a story to it with Perry the Platypus and Doofenshmirtz and like their relationship, like frenemies and like all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't that interested since it was like repetitive.
They call that a
Yeah.
throwback. It basically just threw back to itself every episode.
Yeah, you knew how every episode would end, but I thought they just came up with the most interesting ideas, like a
Mm-hmm.
crazy putt and I don't know. It was so cool. The last Disney Channel one that I wrote down was Kim Possible. And that one, iconic. I didn't watch a whole lot of it because at that time I was probably watching mostly like Hannah Montana and stuff. But I did watch Kim Possible when I saw it on, and I thought it was really cool. And the little naked mole rat and the nachos. I remember the nacho restaurant a lot. Um, but then moving on to Nickelodeon,
let me
I
let me
put
stop you real quick. I got a funny little add in to that, the
okay.
Kim Possible thing. As an adult, I'll be walking around town and hear another adult's phone go off, and it'll go,
Doot, 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 doot.
Yeah.
and you stop and you think, should I like give them the wink that I know what that is, that full
What's the
ringtone,
stitch?
or should I just like let it go because he might be a creepy dude or something. But yeah, iconic ringtone.
Yeah. So moving on to Nickelodeon, the first one I put was Rugrats. Obviously, we talked about that before, but loved it. Great. You got to see some babies with their baby logic, and it was really
Mhm.
cool. Um,
And a screwdriver always in the diaper, right?
yeah.
Didn't Tommy always have a screwdriver in his diaper?
Yeah. My favorite character was Chucky. He's adorable.
He was so
Uh,
cute.
and then Fairly Odd Parents. That one was really good. Um, and I've seen a new theory going around recently that I guess the fairies are the only ones with pupils. Like everyone has like the like iris and then like a black dot, and the fairies are the only ones with the black dot. But now like people are I guess rewatching it and realizing that Trixie, who is the girl that Timmy was it Timmy? Yeah, Timmy was an average kid. Timmy has a crush on Trixie, and her best friend has the pupil. So there's a theory that
Mhm.
her best friend is her fairy. So
Well, that's neat.
nothing's confirmed, but the one of the creators did like make a little TikTok, was like, "Oh yeah, this theory," and then he cut it off before he said anything.
I saw a theory that Boop wasn't like the Green Fairy's baby. It was like I forget that Wanda like had a baby with, you remember like the muscular kind of
Yeah,
fairy? That was just
but
kind of a,
Cosmo gave birth to Boop.
oh, that's, wasn't
Yeah,
Cosmo the pregnant one?
yeah, yeah.
That was a funny
Um,
show.
and then moving right along to Jimmy Neutron, and they had a crossover, I believe, and that was
Oh,
pretty
they
cool.
did.
Yeah, I didn't watch too much of Jimmy Neutron, but the crossover was really cool. Um, and then I put My Life as a Teenage Robot.
I almost put that one,
I
but
watched it a lot, but I don't have any memory of it.
yeah.
Like I remember liking it, and I remember the concept of a robot girl going to like human school.
Hmm.
And it was really cool, but I don't know, maybe I should rewatch it. Then Danny Phantom, really good
Oh,
show.
yeah.
Watched a lot of it. Um, Probably one of the best cartoons that Nickelodeon had.
Hmm.
Really cool ghost villains in every episode. Then my last Nickelodeon show was SpongeBob, and I won't say that I enjoyed watching SpongeBob. I'm sure that I would have had I seen, all of the episodes. But of course, you turn on Nickelodeon and SpongeBob was like the most popular show. And like for like 2 whole hours, it would be SpongeBob. But like every day it would be like the same 20
Same
episodes.
episodes.
And so I can probably quote episodes by heart, but but only those couple ones that I've seen a billion times. I remember Danny and I, we used to go to the gym with our parents, and we'd just go on the little bikes, and they had the TV screen, so we would put on Nickelodeon and just watch SpongeBob most of the time with subtitles because we would forget to bring headphones.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that one wouldn't say it was one of my favorites, but it's like iconic for every person our age.
I think I watched it more than you did.
Yeah, I would say you did. I was kind of like too cool for SpongeBob.
Except the one episode about what was his name, like Doodle Bob or something.
Yeah.
That scared me.
That one didn't scare me, but the one with the gorilla scared me.
Oh yeah,
Where he put him in the bag and he started like no. Like they had a guy in a gorilla suit come and like put SpongeBob in a bag and like in a sack and started swinging him around.
My favorite was the imagination one.
Oh.
There was also the episode where he had to like draw a circle around him, and if he stepped out of the circle, like the bear shark thing would get him. That one was scary.
And Squidward kept getting attacked by it.
Yeah.
And then Cartoon Network, probably had the best cartoons, hence the name. But I wrote down a couple. Teen Titans Go. I watched a little bit of the original Teen Titans, but it was a tiny bit before my time. Like I was a little bit older when I started watching Cartoon Network. So Teen Titans Go was on around that time. Adventure Time we talked about before, but I remember getting really invested in Adventure Time around like the end of the 3rd season. They had like a huge like season finale, and I remember it was such a big deal, and it was kind of like meta. I don't know. It was really cool.
With the villain, the like
yeah,
like in a different universe or something.
Prismo or something.
Oh, and the snail.
The snail being in, with
Easter
the lich.
Egg. Yeah.
And then Regular Show, we watched a lot of that.
That was a good one.
That was really good. Amazing World of Gumball. I also wrote down Total Drama. I probably watched that one more than you did, or I don't know. I feel like I watched more of the seasons, like especially after we stopped getting cable. I would watch them back on Netflix.
Yeah, they're all on Netflix now.
Yeah, and they have a baby one now, like Baby Total Drama, like Total Drama Rama, I think it's called.
Yeah,
and then we saw one episode playing on the TV, and some of the characters just look so crazy, like like they don't even look like the older character.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember liking that one a lot because it was like a little edgy. I remember they said crud, and I was like, that's a dirty word. That's a bad word. They said crud on TV.
I just liked how cruel what was his name? Chris and the chef.
Yeah,
it was just so funny.
And did you know that in the first season they had different winners depending on where it aired? Like it was Owen and Gwen, and I remember when we watched it, Owen won.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like an alternate release, probably in Canada. I think Gwen won because the whole show takes place in Canada. Then like a throwback to our gadgets episode, Codename Kids Next Door. I watched it on my juice box, but also watched it on TV when it was on. Johnny Test, we watched that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then there was this whole thing where in the mornings on Cartoon Network they would play anime, and the only one I cared about was Pokemon. That's the only one I really knew about, and this is the only one I cared about. But of course, like, they'd play like Bakugan and Yu-Gi-Oh! but we would wake up like early in the morning before school to like go to daycare, and
Yeah.
getting ready, I'd be watching, Pokemon. I was like, oh man, oh, I don't even know what shows were on at that point, because we weren't, I don't know, it was like before Adventure Time era, but I guess like other like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon were doing like Nick at Night and stuff. So Cartoon Network was the only one with shows on, and I remember watching a little bit of Pokemon like that. But just like kind of being like, oh man, it's Bakugan and not Pokemon. Like, put the good anime on. And then Boomerang was another good one that had some throwbacks. Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby Doo, which has been running for forever. Smurfs and Snorks. The Snorks was probably the one we watched the most, or at
Isn't
least the
that
one I watched the
underwater?
most. Yeah,
Underwater
they were
little
like
They got
little.
guys.
snorkels coming out of their head.
Yeah,
Mm.
I couldn't tell you what the plot was for any of them, but
It was just the Smurfs underwater.
Remember.
yeah,
They had their little village, and then there was bad guys somewhere.
yeah. And then now I just have my other section where I couldn't remember what channel I watch it on, or where I watched it, but Little Bear we watched a lot as little kids, and Franklin. Was that show just called Franklin, or?
Yeah, I looked it up too.
Oh, okay. And then Stanley's Great Big Book of Everything was a good one. I don't know if you watched that at all, Danny. Little
I don't
kid, and he had a
remember.
fish, and he would like go to like the rainforest or something.
No.
And then Powerpuff Girls. That was a good one.
You liked Bubbles because she was
Yeah,
blue.
she was blue, obviously. She's the best one.
I think I liked Buttercup. I don't remember the third one.
Blossom. Yeah. Gem and the Holograms. That was a good one. An older show, but I liked it a lot. Like a rock star group, and they had like their secret identities of their like celebrities, I guess. And were there actual holograms involved, or was that just their name?
I think that was the name of her backup group. But
Okay.
I'm not sure why they were called that.
But one of the quotes from that show is "Gems are truly outrageous." That's one of their songs. And in League of Legends, there was a character, Tarek, who is like a crystal guy. He has like a crystal hammer, and he recently got reworked. Well, not recently, it was a while ago. But before his rework, one of his voice lines was, "Gems are truly outrageous. Truly outrageous." And I remember figuring that out and like, oh my god, I know that reference. My last two that I have are Hello Kitty's Paradise, which we had on DVD, and I don't know if we had the whole season, because I just remember watching the same couple episodes over and over again.
I think it had probably 4 episodes on it.
And one of them scared me a lot as a kid, because it was Hello Kitty and her sister, and they kind of went to this old witch's house, and the old witch was like trying to, I don't know if she was trying to eat them or kill them or what. Probably nothing too scary because it was a kid's show. But that scared me. And I remember in between the episodes, they would have little, like, not commercials, but little segments of like, what's this? And it would take like a piece of clay and like mold it, and like it turned into a vacuum cleaner. And over time it would add the handle. And I don't know. I just remember that like very vividly. And finally, the last show that I put down was Winx Club, which was one of my favorite kids as a shows as a kid. One of my favorite kids. And it was so cool. We had like a couple Winx Club toys, and it was so cool, like the fairies, and then when they added like their boyfriends,
I like
it was
that
really
show.
cool. Yeah, which one was your favorite, Danny?
I don't know. I remember we had favorites. We had a couple dolls, I think.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I liked those type of shows where like there was Winx Club, and then there's like Monster High, and like we all had
Yeah.
like favorite ones of those. But I don't remember all the characters.
Fake fan.
My bad.
Anyways, yeah, there's my long list of every single cartoon I could recall from my childhood.
Yeah, it's hard because all of a sudden you'll think of another one and then be like, oh yeah, I did watch that a lot. So I didn't grow up with channels like Cartoon Network and stuff. We didn't grow up with 24-hour cartoon channels. So we either watched Saturday morning cartoons, or if we were lucky, we'd get one in, one episode of something in before school, or most of it would be after school. You get home from school, put on the TV, and watch nothing but commercials for toys that you're going to bug your parents about. But I've got mine separated into kind of like genres. I've got classics, comic book themed ones, zany, a little bit of anime, and then cartoons based on toys, or toys based on cartoons. I guess that goes hand in hand, thanks to Hasbro. So with the classics, of course, you got Flintstones and Jetsons. Watched a lot of that growing up. And then Scooby-Doo. There was, you guys probably never seen it, but there was a lot of Scooby-Doo wannabe shows. And some of them
really?
were really, really crazy. There was one that had he was like a purple dog, but he had like a goatee. He looked like a beatnik, and he looked like he was stoned all the time. And he had a bunch of chicks with him. And they went around and they solved mysteries. So it was a formula that worked, I guess. And then the ultimate classics like the Merry Melodies and the Looney Tunes. So you got all your Bugs Bunny cartoons, and a lot of those that I grew up watching, you don't realize, but they were probably written in the 40s and 50s and stuff, and I'm watching them as a kid in the 70s, thinking that it's that it's written for me. But it's crazy to see a lot of like Bugs Bunny like during World War II or something. Doing war propaganda. There was some war propaganda episodes every now and then. So you got all those, of course, the Merry Melodies and all those great characters, the Tweety Bird and all those that we know and love. Yogi's Gang. So Yogi Bear, and he had a bunch of, I guess this was all Hanna-Barbera based cartoons. So ones that would go on and be on like Cartoon Network, or I guess Boomerang was the Hanna-Barbera one. So cartoons that would end up, those characters would end up being on Boomerang for your generation. But that was a lot of fun. And then the Rocky and Bullwinkle show that had all the different, not just Rocky and Bullwinkle episodes, but they had of course, Boris and Natasha were part of that. And then what was the little kid? Sherman and Peabody. The little kid and the dog. And the dog was the master of the kid.
Yeah.
And they'd go time travel in his machine, and you would learn something, because they'd go back in history and you'd learn something. Good old edutainment.
They made a movie a couple of years ago about that.
Yeah, did we actually see that?
I think so. I think we probably rented it.
Yeah, I think we got it like in Redbox or something.
Yeah, that was a good show. And then I don't know if this one is officially canceled or not, but I watched it a lot. You have any guesses to what it was? Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids.
Oh,
so that it was a great show, and you'd always learn something. It's one of those. It's like the cartoon equivalent of what's that sad music TV show that you guys watch? Full House.
Sad music TV show.
So it's like a cartoon in the hood version of Full House. It's like in the Bronx instead of in San Francisco. But always good lessons. The one thing that I still remember today is that if you get your tonsils taken out, you're going to get ice cream.
I can contest.
They made a song about it. So yeah, lots of classics. A couple shows based on comics, and I'm probably too old to include in all the great ones, like the X-Men animated series and stuff like that. So back in my day, we had the Super Friends, and they had several variations of the Super Friends. It seemed like it started like way back in the 60s with just Superman, Batman, Aquaman, I think was it, and maybe Wonder Woman. And but by the time it had gone through a couple different name changes, like Adventures of the Super Friends or Super Friends, Adventures or something, whatever they changed the name to. The version that I watched had, and if you look at like screenshots of the show, you'll see like the 4 people, and then there'll be like 6 people, and then there'll be like 12 people. So the version I had a lot more. So you had, of course, Superman, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman. You had Hawkman and Hawkgirl. You had the Wonder Twins, which were the 2 twins that could turn into things. That had
They were in an episode of Teen Titans Go.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
was their monkey Gleek in it also?
I don't remember.
Gleek was fun. And then they had some kids, like some human kids that had no powers, but they were just like part of the show for some reason. And a couple other characters in there. That's the version that I watched, and it was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool once they made like the like next Avengers equivalent, the like Young Justice or whatever.
Oh yeah,
Like, that show is pretty cool from the couple episodes I watched.
yeah. Those characters can be rebooted a million times, and they're still good. The other comic one I remember watching was called The New Fantastic Four, and that had Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm, which they called Invisible Girl, not Invisible Woman. And it had Ben Grimm, the Thing, and then it had Herbie, which was a robot. And I grew up with the notion, and I probably told you guys that they used Herbie instead of the Human Torch because they didn't want kids to put themselves on fire and emulate the Human Torch. Well, I learned in research of this, again, loosely termed research, that Herbie, it wasn't because of that. It was because the Human Torch was already licensed to a different TV channel for a potential movie.
Oh.
So they were going to make a Human Torch movie, which, imagine the logistics of that in the 70s. I don't know if you've seen any of the Marvel live action shows of the 80s, like with Nick Fury and Captain America. They are just hideous looking. Just
when was the Hulk on?
70s, 80s.
Oh, so it would have been like that?
Well, the Hulk was light years beyond the other ones I've listed. So I can't imagine how in the heck they would do a Human Torch back then without CGI or anything. I don't know. I'm guessing that's why they never made it, but that's the real reason why Herbie was on there.
So politics.
Yeah. But Herbie, I guess, actually made it into canon in the comics, and he's been written in many different comics over the years. I guess he was like a babysitter robot for when Sue Storm had a child. So yeah, Herbie, which is an acronym that I didn't bother to write down what it stands for.
Any relation to Herbie Fully Loaded?
No relation to the VW bug. So next category, zany. One of my favorites was Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels.
The what now?
You have no recollection of Captain Caveman? And I can't list Captain Caveman without doing the Captain Caveman yell. So I'm gonna move the mic back a little bit. So Captain Caveman was maybe like a 4-foot tall, just hairy monster. So for some reason, instead of looking Cro-Magnon, he was just like Cousin It, almost like just nothing but hair, and which was a cool trope because whenever he needed something, he'd just put his hand into his hair and pull it out. Like, but he whenever it was time, he had like a club. He had a club that would help him fly, I guess. He had a little cape and stuff, and whenever it was time to go into action, he would yell. Here we go. Captain Caveman!
Oh my gosh.
You sound like Cookie Monster.
It was kind of like the Cookie Monster. And then he'd raise his club into the air, and I think his club even, like the end of it would open up and there'd be like a little bird in there or something like that. I don't know.
Gosh.
But the Teen Angels was a bunch of teenage girls that followed him around, and I think they would go and fight crime and solve mysteries and stuff. So it was just a Scooby Doo equivalent of a caveman instead of a dog that smoked weed. We had the Laugh Olympics. Do you remember the Laugh Olympics? You ever seen the Laugh Olympics?
No.
So that was like a combination of a bunch of cartoon characters that had different teams. You had the Dastardlies, which was the bad guy from, I guess, the Dastardly. I think he'd been in a couple different cartoons, and he had a dog that would always just wheeze. And then you had Yogi Bear and Huckleberry Hound and all those different characters, and they had different teams, and they'd do a race, or they'd do Olympics and stuff. There was a Wacky Racers
Oh,
was
I
one
remember Wacky Racers.
where they raced cars, and then Laugh Olympics was like Olympic type events. And what I remember about that is the good guys didn't always win. Like each episode, the bad guys were cheating like every single episode. They'd find some way to cheat. But sometimes their cheating would enable them to actually win. So I thought
Wow.
that was kind of neat how they didn't like just make the good guys always end up on top. But that was a lot of fun because you got a lot of funny characters going on. And that was kind of in the same time period, and you won't have any knowledge of this, but there's a lot of comedy movies, like live action comedy movies, like adult movies, that were based on some kind of cross country race of some sort. So there was the Cannonball Run was a famous one, where all these comedians are traveling cross country in cars, and they're trying to get to the end fast to win some big prize. So that it kind of went hand in hand at that same time period. Then there was Hong Kong Phooey. You ever hear of Hong Kong Phooey?
No.
He was a dog who had a secret identity that he would change into Hong Kong Phooey, which basically meant he just put on a like a karate gi and a little black mask that he'd tie around, just the eye mask thing. And now this dog, which I think was like a businessman or something by day, he was Hong Kong Phooey, and he would go and karate chop all the bad guys. But I think he learned his skills from some ancient, Chinese master or something. I don't know. But that was fun. In the anime category, only have a couple, and we talked about it in our anime episode. Battle of the Planets was probably my favorite, and that was probably the oldest. Like I was a little kid watching that, and like I said in the anime episode, that was a Americanization, of course, of some Japanese show. And then Robotech, of course. We talked about that in length in the anime, but I love those shows. But if you asked me about like the cartoons that were most formative for me, well, besides Beavis and Butthead, I've often said I'm just a byproduct of Beavis and Butthead. You can either thank me or hate me for that. But the probably the middle school age, that's like the prime of your consumption, because that's when you get to choose, because you're coming home from school and you get to choose what you're going to watch. They were all based on toys. So G.I. Joe, being a kid growing up, G.I. Joe was probably the coolest thing ever for me. And I'd watch the show every day, and it's fun because the bad guys never die. They always, if their plane gets shot down, you see a parachute pop out. and if there's a big battle, like across the battleground, there's lasers going everywhere, but nobody ever gets hit. It's kind of fun. But G.I. Joe was huge because that was, like I said before, a toy. We loved the toys. It was a comic book. It was a TV show. It was like the trifecta. And Larry Hama, who we met at one of the Comic-Cons, was the guy who basically wrote all the characters. And it was his job to give life to all these characters because Hasbro was telling him, hey, we need to crank out, 10 more toys because everybody already owns Duke and Lady J and Roadblock. We need to get some more out. Okay, well, I'll make a diver and I'll make an astronaut, and got to come up with some cool bad guys, of course. And so he was busy writing all these stories for all these people, all these backstories, and then you get to learn about them in the comics, learn about them in the cartoons, and then And then next thing you know, hey, look, they're on the shelves at Kmart and Walmart and KB Toys and all your favorite toy stores. So that was cool. Another Hasbro classic, of course, the Transformers. And these were kind of like almost at the same time. So the Transformers, awesome toys, and a great show. I loved the show. Again, another story of we've destroyed our home. War has torn it up. We have to find another place to live, and the bad guys are like they just want to rape and pillage the new place, and the good guys want to learn from their mistakes and not destroy their new home. So it's kind of a good story and good lesson to learn by as we continue to destroy our own Earth. I guess nobody learned. But the Transformers, they weren't the only transforming robots or robot shows of their time. Once something becomes popular, then everybody just rips it off. So there was, let me list out a couple more of them. The Mighty Orbots. You ever hear of the Mighty Orbots?
Briefly.
They were kind of weird, and I don't think they ever made toys. So
that's why they failed.
That show didn't make it. I think before the Transformers, there was actually Challenge of the GoBots.
Whoa!
And I actually had GoBots, and I think the GoBots came to America from, I want to say like the Matchbox company brought them over or something. So they were in competition with Hasbro with their Transformers, and they didn't win because their show wasn't near as good. But they made some pretty neat toys. They were a lot more simple. Like some of them you just literally like fold in half twice and it's transformed. You're not like rotating arms and legs and stuff like that. But they were good. And then Voltron, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That was a cool one because anytime you can get like things that transform but also can combine together to make something even cooler,
right?
That's like a formula for success right there. So Voltron, I think.
I started watching the reboot of that. Netflix rebooted it, and I watched the first couple episodes. It was pretty good. I know there's like a following for it.
I like the whole story of how they're supposed to be the defenders of the universe, but the lines were all distributed all over the planet, and they have to go and find them and get them back so they can form together to form Voltron. And it was when we'd watch that show as a kid, I'd usually be watching it with one of my friends, at his house or my house or something. It was like a huge scene whenever Voltron got completely, they'd have the little cut scene where all the lines would transform into Voltron. And then once everything's all locked into place, he'd always draw the sword. He had like a laser sword. And he'd always like draw that sword and you're like, oh yeah, it's on now. Like Voltron's going to kick some butt. So that was a great show. And that's the end of my list. I know I left a ton out. When I started going through like you did, I just went through like Googled best cartoons of the 70s and 80s, and you see all these, and there's like all kinds of ones that I'd forgotten. And some, it's funny how some like live to the next generation. Like I don't know if you remember Inspector Gadget.
I remember based on the live action movie.
Yeah, Inspector Gadget was a huge cartoon. Famous for having a girl named Penny, just like our cat, Penny. A huge cartoon. It was awesome because you got this detective / secret agent / guy that's got robotic, bits to his body that's super capable. And he's supposed to be solving all these crimes, but it's actually Penny and the dog that were solving all the crimes, and he was just stumbling upon, what they had already solved. So that was always great. So yeah, they did make that live action later on.
Did you not watch He-Man at all?
He-Man was probably one of the biggest of the time, but I think it was just a matter of, and again, that was, I think, another Hasbro The story where I learned most of that story was the history of Sega, the company Sega, because
Mm.
the guy who made Sega such a success in America came from Hasbro, and
Hmm.
he did such a huge deal there. I think he was it Hasbro or Mattel? It was one of the two. Yeah, I think it was Mattel because he made Barbie famous in
Oh,
the
okay.
80s because Barbie was just a single doll for like a
Right.
couple generations, and he made Barbie into something that everybody had to have, hundreds of. And he also made the uh, the He-Man characters because they're like, we need to make a Barbie for boys because boys aren't buying too many Barbies, so let's make something. So he made that, and that obviously was fueled by a very successful cartoon, which I did watch a little bit, but I never had any of the toys. I think it was just a
Mm.
matter of, you know, when it's birthday time or Christmas time, and mom and dad are going to buy something, they're not going to spread that out. If you're already into Transformers or GI Joe, they're just going to keep on getting whatever the new Transformer or GI Joe thing is because they know if you don't have it, it's going to be a hit for you. So I think it was just a matter of being focused on those two main toys that I never diversified out into He-Man, which is probably a good thing because there were just so many of those guys that it would have been overwhelming. Now my best friend did have all the He-Man stuff, which they were cool, but some of them were like really wacky, like
Mm.
Merman and Moss Man and Ram Man, and just a lot of man.
Would you bring your toys out when watching the show? Like, oh, GI Joe's on. Let me grab my guys and fight along with the show. Would you do that, or would you just watch and then play with them later?
I would watch again. We were at that time we were probably like middle school,
Mm.
so
It was just cool to have them and not as cool to play with them.
yeah, it was more of a matter of collecting at that point.
Mm.
Because I remember at my friend's house we'd try to have like battles and we'd try to set up different things, but with the GI Joe, the vehicles were always the coolest. They had
Mm.
helicopters and tanks and all kinds of cool stuff, so the vehicles were really cool. Um, but yeah, we'd try to have like little battles, but a 12-year-old's brain just isn't creative enough to you know to do a whole lot. So we'd end up just usually like being like, "Oh, cool, you got the new Zartan with the color changing mask or whatever." It was more of a like a which character did you get this week, dude? But yeah, good stuff. So any other cartoons come to mind as we were discussing?
I forgot one that I thought Danny might mention. Um, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Oh yeah.
It's a good one.
And we had some of those toys, and I remember that the heads would pop off and we would
Hmm.
hot glue them back.
Oh, so much glue. Those things were so fragile. Like they would last a day, those things, but they were the coolest toys and the coolest
Yeah.
show.
And we had like a little car for them, and we might have
Yeah,
had like a house. I don't remember if we did or not, but
something.
we ended up using like the piano a lot for like houses and
Yeah,
stuff because
yeah,
the
we did.
piano bench was the perfect height to like sit down at and play on. But yeah.
Yeah, that show was great, and then the House of Mouse also. Much different theme, more old
Oh
kid
yeah.
version of it because it was all based like in a jazz club or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But they would just play basically like shorts, and then they'd have the overarching story around the shorts. But that was a good show. And Nightclub owned by one of them, I forget who. Well, very cool. This is a fun episode.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming up with that idea, Amber.
Of
And
course. I like my cartoons.
yeah, cartoons are
Still
cartoons are
do.
good no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
Cartoons are not just for kids. That's the message we're trying to bring
Yeah.
this episode.
I still watch cartoons. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, that was on when I was a kid, but I didn't watch it until a couple years ago. I suggest everyone go watch it. It's one of the best cartoons ever. I'll stand by that.
with the best live action adaptation of any show ever.
Okay, we're getting a new one. We're getting a new live action Avatar, and it's gonna be better.
And who's making that one?
Is it Netflix? I think it's Netflix.
Is it?
Yeah.
That'd be good.
But the Korean guy from Lost, who is in Saints Row, he's gonna be, I think, the main villain, Lord Ozai.
Is that Jen?
Yeah.
Jen? Okay. Cool. All right, so that's going to wrap up this episode of Cartoons We Grew Up With. We had a lot of fun with this. It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Danny nods while yawning.
I caught Danny mid-yawn, so she had a nod. I'm like, that's not how podcasts work, Danny.
Oh, really?
The nod's not going to work. But thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel. We got stuff going on there, a couple videos every week of all types of different stuff. And other than that, as always, peace out
and geek out.
Thank you for listening to the Family Geekery Podcast. For more information, visit www.familygeekery.com. Don't forget to subscribe at your favorite podcast provider. And until next time, peace out and geek out.